Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube, it says.
Oh, hi, I am Jami with Infinite Realities. But I more importantly get to talk to one of my favoriteest people in the world, Kelly Sue DeConnick.
Hello, hello, hello. Jami, you and I go way back. I feel like we've done this dance 1,000 times.
I still think the most fun I've ever had.
Meeting is now streaming live on YouTube, it says.
Oh. Hi, I am Jami with Infinite Realities. But I more importantly get to talk to one of my favoriteest. We always have to turn that off. Haha. So there we go. Fun with stuff. But I think one of my favorite panels ever was the Men in Comics.
Yes, which you organized. Thank you so much for that.
No, you're the one who was like, let's do this. And I was like, yes, please, because that was so much fun. But I will say that like I usually do like PowerPoints and stuff for panels. So you said that and I went home and I was like, oh shit. Beefcakey photos. So I found that 92 Marvels like swimsuit and pulled that down because I thought, why not?
Oh, that was a lot of fun. That was a lot of fun.
So how are you doing? How are you hanging in there? We
are doing all right. You know, we're very lucky. We have a lot of space in the house. We have a beautiful forest around us, and everybody is healthy. And we are, as of right now, continuing to be being paid for scripts. So we are able to continue to pay everyone who works for us and keep them employed. And so we're doing well. We have nothing to complain about. We're holding the line. Our work is a little heavier than usual because we don't have those people who usually help us with that workload in the house anymore. Yeah. So that minimizes the amount of things that they can do. And it's hard to be a teacher and a writer. And we have 2 kids that we have to now help educate. And I share my office. She's actually on lunch, but I share my office with my 10-year-old daughter, who is a hoot, but maybe not always good for my productivity. So.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to ask, I assume that a lot of parents have made that shift into to teaching. So a lot of people would assume that you've got all this time to write, but it's not really been that way for you.
No, I have less time now than I've ever had, which is kind of like, oh, I didn't know we could go further down this road. All right. But that said, I'm fussing, and I shouldn't be, because as I said, we are very lucky. I'm sorry, my dog is expressing himself right now. I apologize if you can hear that. But we are healthy. We are very privileged. And when I look back on all of this, I know for what it will have meant for our family is actually been really good family time. Like, you know, my daughter and I are driving each other crazy, but we're also closer than we've ever been. And my son too, we're starting to work out together, and you know, it's been some extraordinary family time. My mother-in-law lives with us, and she and I now play a video game together in the evening a couple nights a week. And it's Animal Crossing, which I know the entire planet is playing. But my mother-in-law and I are also playing it. We started it with the kids, and then the kids like rapidly lost interest, and now it's just Karen and I go in. We're like, you want to go to the island? Yeah, let's go to the island for a little bit. So.
Well, yeah, I imagine you haven't been doing as much traveling this year.
No.
So that. Oh yeah. So you've been still working on Aquaman. I have to tell you, I've loved your Aquaman just because you've gone into so deep cuts with the ocean mythology.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. How much research did you have to do for that?
A good bit. I've had a lot of fun with that book. I'm realizing as I'm sort of coming to the end of my run that I should have gone bigger earlier. I mean, I went real big out of the gate, but then I went real small. Maybe what I should have done was planned on another year. I don't know. I have some regrets now. As it's all coming together, it's all coming together beautifully, but I'm like, oh, it could have been better. It could have like, I feel like I'm always learning, and that's great, but I feel like I'm always learning like a week too late. You know what I mean? Like probably more than a week, but
Monday quarterback or Monday.
Yeah.
So what have you been working on? I mean, if you've got a moment.
Let's see. Historia, Aquaman. I'm looking. I have a whiteboard of all my projects over here. Aquaman, Historia. Historia is probably the thing that I'm most giddy about right now. And pages for the second issue of that are coming in while the first issue is being finalized. There's 64 page issues, so they're hefty. And I don't think the artist on issue 2 has been announced, so I won't step on any DC toes, but we're swinging for the bleachers on this, so that's pretty cool.
That's awesome. I think the announcement I heard before is the first issue is Jimenez.
Yeah, Phil Jimenez did the first one and has really set an impossible bar, and just literally impossible. So, but everybody who's coming in after him is coming in like, all right, let's see what we can, like, Phil brought his best, so, you know.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, and so I'm just like, woo, woo, woo. Yeah. So yeah, that's pretty cool. I just turned in I don't know what is announced. I'm not sure what I'm allowed to talk about.
Fair.
I just turned in a 12-page short for DC that was a lot of fun for a real big name artist that I had never written for before. So that was both exciting and intimidating. So I'll leave you with that tease.
Fair.
Bitch Planet 11 is done. It's going to colors, I believe, this week. It's been done mostly for a while, to be honest, but we're working on that next arc. Valentine and I and Matt and Andrew Iden just did a comic for the New York public school system on voting rights.
That's awesome.
Registered. That is available for free download to anybody who would like it. I can make sure you guys have that information.
Please do. Like, I want to check it out.
Yeah. And I know I'm not allowed to talk about that one. So yeah, so I think I got 2 things on here I can't chat about. TV is quiet right now. So that is allowing me to get caught up on comics a bit as best I can with the COVID situation.
Working on Bitch Planet, especially right now, that's got to be rough. I mean,
yeah, I mean, it's the thing I keep saying is like, who wants to read it when we're living it, you know? Now the thing about Bitch Planet is it's always been intended to be a satire, and one of the things that we learned with the Bitch Planet anthology was we hadn't done a good job of we hadn't been satirical enough, and like, it's supposed to be funny, it's supposed to be mean funny, but it's supposed to be funny and a bit over the top. And the pitches that we got from people on the Bitch Planet anthology were grim and dark and relentless, not satire. They were straightforward, brutal stories.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, if that is how the book is being, if they're pitching trying to match our tone and that is how the book is being read, we're not communicating what we mean to be communicating.
Yeah.
And so we kind of had to go back to the drawing board and figure out how to crank things up so it still feels of a piece, but the satire is really high, and such that it has a sense of humor, and also how to make sure that I don't want to read anything depressing right now, you know? So it has to be entertaining, cathartic, empowering. You know, those are kind of the watchwords I'm going for, not still brutal satire, but
not Debbie Downer.
yes. Yeah.
So, and you just finished up Pretty Deadly book 3 with the rat.
Yes.
That's the third arc. So,
which I'm maybe more proud of. Like this feels like the year, great, the year that the entire economy shuts down and books don't come out. But this feels like the year where some of the, I still got a long way to go, but some of the ambition is catching up, or some of the ability to execute is catching up on some of the ambition.
mm-hmm.
Not entirely. I still have road before me, and I'm sure I always will, but still a humbling amount. but yeah, I think The Rat is the strongest of the 3 volumes easily.
It was, I love the cutting into like so yeah, that I thought was really interesting. Was that something that you and Emma kind of collaborated on, or did she just want to go with it?
You glitched a little bit there for a second, so I didn't hear the you love the what?
The paper cut, like the scenes. Was that something that you had intended, or you were just like spitballing ways to differentiate flashbacks? Or
yeah, so we I mean, it's that whole book is a conversation between Emma and I, to the point where I had this fantasy early on that I was like, oh, someday I'll publish a script book. And like, there could never be a script book for Pretty Deadly because there's the script, and then there's like 19 emails and a text chain and a thread on Slack. You know what I mean? Like it like everything is talked about and made in this sort of push-pull conversation.
mm-hmm.
And it's it feels sometimes like an installation or a fine arts project, you know? Like interestingly, like the narrative is important, but the narrative is almost the narrative, the 3 narratives. The 3 narratives are important, but they're almost the least important. Mm-hmm. Like we talk about like what are the ideas that we're playing with, and what are the images that we're playing with, and what are the connections we're trying to make. And in this case, we wanted, you know, we're always looking at the history of the American West, because that is sort of the mythology of America is seated there. And so, so we were like, well, you know, what is more the birthplace of mythology than Hollywood, right? And so then, you know, we always try to look at like who doesn't have the power. So who doesn't have the power in early Hollywood? And that was sort of we were thinking about Lottie Reniger, who was this paper cut, you know, she was a filmmaker who was almost forgotten. There's been a real renaissance and interest in her work. But the way women tend to be erased from history, one of the early innovating filmmakers just people don't know about.
Yeah.
And so so we started pulling some of that reference. It really spoke to Emma. Because we wanted to do noir for this one, we were looking at really increasing the heavy blacks. Well, Paper Cuts makes that like, oh, that dovetails beautifully, you know. So yeah, it was it was part of the genesis of the project, I guess. But everything is always just this back and forth. And also, like Emma, every volume, Emma just ups her game impossibly. And, you know, to the point where I'm like, why do you work with me? You don't, she's a writer. She doesn't need me, you know? But we have this thing that we've made together that we love. So, haha, I got her.
And American mythology is a great way, I think, to describe it, and it's what I've used. And every choice in it is very deliberate, and I really enjoy that about it. You can very tell that like there are books where there's slapdashy kind of fun in the background. You're like, great, but it's very methodical, and I really like that.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a different kind of read. It's a heady read, you know. It's not for everybody. If it is not your jam, that is totally okay. I do not judge you poorly for it. I get it. You know, it is it's a book that rewards like spending some time with.
Oh yeah.
And like, you know, if what you're looking for is like, I just want some popcorn, like it's not really a popcorn book. And that's totally like nothing wrong with popcorn. I love me some popcorn.
Oh yeah. So Chris did a fun smoke signal thing here. How do you write satire right now? How do you handle that?
Weep for the satirists right now because reality is just upping its game. You know, like I don't know, not very well at the moment is the answer, but we'll see how we do.
Gotcha. So you've got some projects you can't tell us about. I remember a long time ago.
Sorry, that's the worst answer. I'm so sorry. I wish I had permission because I'm very excited about both of them.
Well, I'll ask you about one I remember hearing about a long time ago with Sienkiewicz. Parisi and White, are you guys still playing with that back and forth or no?
Theoretically, it's still happening.
Gotcha.
I think it's like, yeah, I don't know. I love Bill so super much. He did when his big retrospective book came out not too long ago. He mentioned it a few times in a couple of interviews, and so I was like, "Is that still happening?" You know, but
a book will just show up at your door.
Yeah, we'll see. I would super love for that to happen. He's done a tremendous amount of work on it.
Yeah.
So, but you know, until he's in a place where he's ready to let it go, you know, then it is what it is. I regret that we announced it prematurely. But I love Bill no matter what. He remains an art god and a dear friend. And if it happens, it happens. Great. If it doesn't, I had a project with Bill Sienkiewicz, you know?
That's life though. I mean, you can't get too down. Sometimes things just don't happen the way you want.
Yeah. And you know, and people over projects, right?
Oh yeah. I can tell you there have been times where I've called people and been like, hey, can you do this thing for me? And they can't. Life is life. People get busy. It's nothing personal. Yeah. So what have you binged any shows?
Now, you know, I have had like I said, less time rather than more time. So I have actually Westworld is my favorite show, and I have only seen one episode of the new season.
Fair.
So yeah, no, I haven't. What did I watch? I've watched a documentary on not a documentary, like a, I don't even know what to call it, a stage show sort of, but a Beastie Boys retrospective thing. I watched that. I watched a kung fu movie with my husband the other night for date night. We watched The Chinese Boxer, and then listened to a lecture, sort of a lecture, a little talk afterwards by one of our favorite movie programmer guys from the Hollywood Theater here in Portland that we're members of. And I think last night or the night before, Matt also watched Shogun Assassin as part of that same series, but I bowed out of it. I've seen Shogun Assassin before, which I should have watched it again and done the talk, but I was just like, had a lot of stuff I wanted to get checked off my list, and I didn't get housework done over the weekend that I wanted to do.
Laundry. I've got the pile.
Yeah.
So what do you have coming out that well, I've already asked that, I'm sorry. How can people support you right now?
Take care of yourselves. You don't have to worry about me right now. Let's see, what have I got? Aquaman 49, 59? 59. I think is out today.
I believe so. Yeah.
I heard some rumor that it got held up for some stores. I'm not sure what happened there. I'm not plugged into all of that, but the whole Aquaman piece is going to start coming to a head. So that I do a almost daily text service called Bitches Get Shit Done. That historically has been productivity based, but during COVID is really more about self-care and community building. If it is a free service, if you would like to sign up for that, there is a pinned tweet at the top of my Twitter feed, which is at Kelly Sue, at KELLYSUE, and you just text the number that's there. And if you text BSGD, that will put you on the Bitches Get Shit Done list. Or if you text MilkFed, the word MilkFed, which is our company name, Matt and I, that will put you on our text list for heads up about our comic stuff. And Matt has my husband, Matt Fraction, has two big books coming out real soon. I'm sorry, release schedules have just sort of escaped my
dates have gone wonky, let's be real.
Yeah, I don't know, but Adventure Man #1 is out, I believe, June 10th. And there was a bunch of advanced reviews hitting on that. And that is an extraordinary book. I think it's like 64 pages for $5 or something. I mean, like, it's crazy. And then his graphic novel series, November issue 2, which is a gorgeous little hardcover with Elsa Chartier. I believe that is out in the next week or two as well.
I want to say next week, because I've got the first one of that one. Real quick, just for funsies, what was it like on the Captain Marvel set?
Oh, it was really delightful. I confessed to being a little bit cynical about when I was contacted about being a part of it. I thought, oh, they want nerd cred, they're going to put my name on it, but they're not going to listen to me. And you know. And so I went in fists up a little bit, but I was like, well, I'm going to speak my mind. So you asked, I'm going to tell you, and you can, do with it what you want. And instead, I ended up finding just a group of incredibly wonderful, open people who were very welcoming. I felt very included in the whole process. I gave notes on every draft of the script. I was sent screening codes so I could watch cuts of the film and give notes. And they treated my family and I like celebrities at the premiere, which was just absurd and wonderful and generous, and like got me mom points forever, you know? And Bree was delightful. Anna and Ryan were incredible, and Kevin and Jonathan were restored my faith in Hollywood.
That's good.
Yeah. So yeah. So I went in kind of fists up and ended up being a little ashamed of myself. I'm like, oh, they're very nice. I'm sorry.
Well, it's better than the other way.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Well, I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you so much for chatting with us. Really
Well, you're so very welcome. It's nice to see you again.
see you too.
All right.
Turn this off. Let's see here. And